Inverse of one-to-one function. Let's tackle the inverse function. So if you have a function of x and you would like to get the inverse function of x, the notation for this is function of x is written as f of x. Well, the inverse function of x is written as f raised to minus 1 of x. Inverse function of one-to-one functions. In this case, the domain of the function of x will become the range of the inverse function of x. While the domain of the inverse function of x will become the range of function of x. Let's take a look at this example. So if we have a domain, Philippines, China, and USA, and then we will match that one with the range of plus 63, plus 86, plus 1. These are the country codes of the countries in the left. The countries are the domain and serve as function of x, while the range would be plus 63, plus 86, plus 1, and that is the range of function of x. If we are about to get the domain and the range of function of x, quite easily, the range of function of x will become the domain of the inverse of function of x, while the domain of function of x will become the range of the inverse function of x. Property of an inverse of one-to-one function. Given a one-to-one function of x, and its inverse, the inverse function of x, then the following are true. The inverse of the inverse function of x is actually the function of x. If we're going to evaluate the domain of the function, that would be equals to x for all x in the domain of the inverse function. Well, if we're going to get the domain of the inverse function, that would be x for all x in the domain of a function. Quite easily, if we have a function of x, 5x, and the inverse function of that would be 1 over 5x. How is it done, you may ask? Okay, let's solve the inverse one-to-one function. If we have to find the inverse of one-to-one function, we have 3 steps to follow. 3 easy steps. Step 1. Write the function in the form y is equals to the function of x. Step 2. Interchange the x and the y variables. Step 3. Solve for y in terms of x. Just 3 easy steps. Let's take a look at these examples. Example number 1, function of x is equals to 3x plus 1. While example number 2 is a function of x is equals to 2x plus 1 over 3x minus 4. Quite quickly, we can tell that example number 1 is a linear function, while example number 2 is a rational function. Let us solve example number 1. Write the function in the form y is equals to the function of x. That is the step 1. So if we recall the given function of x is equals to 3x plus 1, we just have to write that 1 in the form of y. So quite easily we can write y is equals to 3x plus 1. Step 2. Interchange the x and the y variables. Y becomes x and x becomes y. So we can rewrite that one as x is equals to 3y plus 1. You see, y becomes x becomes y. Step 3. We are now to solve for y in terms of x. Rearranging, we will have x minus 1 is equals to 3y. But we are only interested with y. So therefore, by dividing each side by 3, you will have x minus 1 over 3 is equal to y, or the inverse function of x is actually equal to x minus 1 over 3. Answer for example number 1, with a given function of x is equal to 3x plus 1, would be the inverse of function of x is the inverse function of x is equal to x minus 1 over 3. Let's solve example number 2. Again, we'll go back to step number 1. Write the function in the form y is equals to function of x. Let's show the given function of x is equals to 2x plus 1 over 3x minus 4. Rewriting that one would give you y is equals to 2x plus 1 over 3x minus 4. That is steps number 1. Step number 2. Interchange the x and the y variables. Y becomes x and x becomes y. So you will have then x is equals to 2y plus 1 over 3y minus 4. We are now going to step number 3. Step number 3, solve for y in terms of x. So we have now x is equals to 2y plus 1 over 3y minus 4. We are going to multiply that one with 3y minus 4. So you will have x times 3y minus 4 is equals to 2y plus 1. Distributing x, so you would have 3xy minus 4x is equals to 2y plus 1. Putting like terms together, so you have 3xy minus 2y is equals to 4x plus 1. Factoring y, you will have then 3x minus 2 is equals to 4x plus 1. Dividing each side by 3x minus 2, you will get y is equals to 4x plus 1 over 3x minus 2. So therefore, the inverse function of x is 4x plus 1 over 3x minus 2.